Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. The 2022 flu season has been one of the worst since 2010, and it's only November. Today on the show, Bob and Rollie talk about how the cold in the wintertime can actually weaken your immune system. They go over the physical changes the cold weather has on your body and why it affects your immune system, and how viruses are at their peak during the coldest months of the year. Learn some great tips that you can easily add into your daily routine that will have your immune system running on all cylinders. So sit back, relax, and get ready to live forever young.
So, welcome everybody to Live Forever Young Radio. I am Bob. I'm here with Rollie. Hello, Rollie.
How's it going, Bob?
Awesome, man. How are you today?
Good. I'm excited because I get to wear my jersey. It's getting a little bit colder out. So
there you go. And it is November the 18th today that we're doing this recording.
Yep.
Right. And so it's already flu season.
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about today, because
exactly.
Usually flu season ramps up, the beginning of December, goes through February. Already this year, we have a record flu season.
Yeah,
that's going
actually.
on, right? It's like, what is it? Over 1.5 million people have already gotten the flu starting here in November.
Yeah, I was just watching a little bit of the news, and I mean, I've talked to some people who've already caught it, and they were saying that the hospitalizations from this year's flu season are the highest since 2010. And yeah, 1.5 million people, they estimate, maybe more actually, have already had it. And with some of the scarier things was 730 of those were fatal, and 2 of them were children. Yeah. So yeah, and children are actually getting hit real hard by the flu and the bugs this season as well. So
yeah,
not good.
In the wintertime, as it gets colder in the northern hemisphere, right, we tend to see that people's immune systems are weaker, right, because they're out in the sun less, so their vitamin D is lower, and we know that having an adequate level of vitamin D is important for your immune system.
Right. It's one of the main things that we talk about. There's also other couple things like vitamin C is helpful. Olive leaf extract is very good. They help mainly with like the antioxidant properties. But yeah, when you stay inside, vitamin D comes from the sun. So if it's cold, even if it's sunny out, you're not going out there, you're not going to get vitamin D. So that's one of the things that happens. You stay inside, you're not getting sunlight, and then you end up kind of rubbing elbows with somebody who might be sick, and then you kind of transfer it from one person to the other.
Yep. And your body's immune response tends to be lower in the wintertime also. You have all these protective barriers, particularly your nasal passage, which has mucus, which is a protective barrier. It doesn't work as well in cold weather.
Right? Yeah, that's why when you go out in the cold, right, and you've been out there for a while, your nose gets kind of like hard and crusty. That's all that mucus that's supposed to protect that nasal cavity.
Yeah. And it responds slower, so it gives more of a chance for a pathogen like a flu virus to take hold.
Right, sneak up in there.
Right, and you have this, you have an innate immune system, which is like first line of defense, and your body has, many forms of defense. So your nasal passage is one. You produce, compounds in your mouth actually that help fight infections, and your stomach also. So if you take in something by mouth into your stomach, the acid in your stomach kills most bacteria. And then you also have your skin, which is a protective barrier. But if something like a flu virus makes it past those protective barriers, then right away your immune system reacts. You have some inflammation. The inflammation is actually a good thing in this case, because the inflammation is what attracts the cells that come to try to immediately kill the pathogen.
Right.
This is the first line of defense. It helps keep it from spreading.
Right. That's you read my mind. That's the first thing the body's response is to fight that inflammation. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
It's also using the inflammation kind of like a magnet that draws the killer cells to it that are encapsulating and killing the pathogens.
Nice.
And then there's also a mechanism that helps create more inflammation, which brings even more help.
Wow.
So the initial inflammation is beneficial.
Gotcha. Right? Yeah, we talk about inflammation all the time as being bad, and that's more chronic inflammation.
Yes.
Right. And so what we're talking about now is immediate inflammation to fight at the site of an infection or something like that.
Exactly. So then if, in many cases, people are exposed to the flu. Almost everyone gets exposed to it.
Right.
Some people are healthy and strong, and that first response stops the spread of the virus, and they don't actually get sick. Mm-hmm. But if your body is compromised, you can end up not being able to mount a strong enough initial response, and then you go into a whole different type of immunity, which is the adaptive immune system that has to use a whole different and elaborate chemical mechanism that's very complex in order to begin spreading, tagging, replicating, spreading the anti-pathogenic compounds to try to get rid of a systemic type of infection. Gotcha. And that's what happens when people get the full blown on flu.
Right.
It's gone beyond that first stage and spread.
Right.
And now you have to kick in your secondary immune response.
Gotcha.
And that is where it's critical that you be in a very healthy state.
Right.
The same person can get exposed to the same pathogen or bug. Mm-hmm. One person gets exposed, another one gets exposed. Two completely different types of responses.
Right. And one of the things we were kind of talking about before we did the show is how the virus itself is actually, he's kind of like a spy, man. He's in there looking for your body's weakness. He's like, okay, this guy's got lung problems, or this person's got a heart issue. So it kind of attaches to those things as well. And that's why there can be two different symptoms or responses from people from the same bug, right? Because one person might have an issue with this, the other might have an issue with that. And the two differences make that bug react differently inside. Yep. We say bug, but the virus or whatever it is react differently. And so like when we're talking about this, a lot of the things we've talked about is how the cold affects the body and why the body can't handle it quite as well. But another factor that I don't think we've mentioned yet is that the colder temperatures are actually going to help this virus live longer, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no way to kind of kill it. Viruses tend to have a harder time in warmer temperatures.
Right.
So the colder temperatures, not only is your body kind of a little bit on the down, it's not able to protect itself as well, but the viruses are stronger and they're more active.
Right.
So they're running up your nose or whatever, and they don't have a problem, and your body's not ready for it. So that's another thing.
You want to just know that the healthier you are, the better able you are to react. Mm-hmm. You are going to get exposed to pathogens continuously.
Right.
There's bacteria floating in the air everywhere we go, mm-hmm. and our body is constantly, screening it out with our different defense mechanisms. But if you're run down, that's when you're likely to get sick. So one of the main things is the issue of sleep. Mm-hmm. If people are tired, they wake up, they've only got 4 hours of sleep because they couldn't sleep for whatever reason, their immune system is going to be much weaker. Mm-hmm. So this particularly is a time of year to make this commitment to know all about the best ways to get enough sleep and to just make a commitment to do it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that your body does a majority of its repair and recovery during the sleep cycles, right?
Yep.
And so if you're not sleeping well and you're not repairing yourself well, you're not healing well, you add a bug or a virus on top of that, and it throws it all out of whack.
So we have a podcast on sleep people can watch. And
it's called Tips for Sleep.
Yeah, and learn,
check it out.
Learn all the different tips, and this is the time. And I think this year, I'm finding, Rollie, more than ever, people are worried about getting sick.
Yeah.
We hear people talking about, wanting to be healthy because they're afraid to get sick this year. Right. And so this is something that you don't want to be extremely fearful of, but you want to use your intuition to say, all right, so if that's how I'm feeling, what am I going to do?
Right.
What am I going to do about it? So we start out with sleep, and then another one is stress management. And we talk about this all the time, but there's a lot of stress in the world right now. There's a war going on, right? You got all kinds of crazy things happening.
It is.
That people perceive to be stressful, and so it weakens their immune system. So,
Right. And on top of that, you got the holiday season where we did a show about, going to visit the relatives, and sometimes that can get hairy depending on the relationships. So we talked about nonviolent communication as a way to help manage that type of stress in one of our shows called How to Use Nonviolent Communication. Definitely check that out, because when you get together in a room full of people you haven't seen in over a year and everybody's got baggage, some stuff might come up. So make sure you know how to communicate well, right?
Yeah. Same, using the emotional freedom technique
Tapping,
is very helpful also. And this, again, it's a matter of a commitment, okay? Because everybody can learn the techniques of NVC and tapping. They're available on our podcast. You can learn them, but you have to make that commitment to do it. And so if you have a goal to stay healthy this season, through February, to make it through the flu season, then that's good to have a goal. But you also, with any goal, you're never going to reach it if you don't take action. So you take this action, you say, well, I don't know if I can learn how to do tapping. That seems a little beyond me. Well, that will sabotage you.
Correct.
So you have to recognize, okay, if I've got a goal and there's a skill that I need to reach that goal, but right now there's a gap, a perceived gap. I don't know how to do it, and I'm not sure I can learn how to do it. That's what trips you up, right? So this is where you have to accomplish your goal by flipping that and saying, using the word yet. I don't know how to do it yet, right?
That's right.
But I will learn. And even if I have to call to Boomers Forever Young for advice, if I can't learn it properly and I'm stuck, that's when you call us and we'll help you to get on track, unstuck. Okay? And so there's no excuse. There's no excuse. You want to learn to manage your stress? Our podcasts about it are there, and we're here to answer the phone and help you if you get stuck.
Yeah, and stress, again, we've said this a million times, but I'll say it again. You could take all the great health products in the world, but if your body's under stress, you're not going to feel better. That's something that you have to learn how to manage, and sometimes you can't just take a pill for it, right? That's one of the reasons why we started the podcast, is to share stuff that we can't, bottle. So we're trying to bottle it in this podcast and share it, and if we share it, that's great, but it takes you guys to go and actually practice it and try it and introduce it into your daily routines, which is, as we've kind of done our show, I think we've done about 63 episodes, and I believe this is about our 63rd episode. We always kind of talk about that, and it's not easy, right, to stay on that track. But that's why we're here to help you back on, right? Yep. Everybody needs help, including me. Everybody except Bob. No, I'm just kidding. Bob needs help too. But, that's why we're here. We're here to help you guys, and don't hesitate to reach out. Boomerboost.com. Go there for the podcasts and blogs. It's great stuff. But anyway, exercise. Do we talk about exercise?
Yeah, exercise sometimes is harder in the cold months.
Right, you don't want to go outside.
People like to go outside and exercise. Well, this is where you have to, again, have a commitment. You either need to have a way to exercise at home in your house with stretch band and the like, but you also can join a gym. You can also get layers of warm clothing and go outside, enjoy the cold.
Yeah, well, if another thing that people, we have with age of technology, you can go right on and you can do a virtual yoga class, right? My daughter has a video game for the Nintendo called Ring Fit, and it gives you this band that you got to squeeze and pull, and then while you're, you got to run in the game and you got to do this, and there's different ways just besides going outside that you can exercise that can actually make it fun and actually might make you stick with it because you get rewarded. Like you're doing a video game, you get rewarded at the end of your run. And that's what we always talk about. You got to reward yourself for doing the right thing. And that's another way to stay on track. Don't feel bad about rewarding yourself.
Yep, absolutely. And do it with celebration.
Right.
So, You
Yes.
want to celebrate with a gesture, celebrate with a treat,
Right.
but celebrate because what you celebrate, you tend to do more of.
Exactly.
Now, probably in Buffalo, New York this weekend, people aren't going to be out doing a lot of exercise.
No.
It's going to snow 4 feet. Be careful with shoveling snow. If you haven't been doing exercise all year, you could give yourself a heart attack.
That's a very good point. A lot of people don't realize how strenuous something like shoveling snow is. And because your body's in a state where it's trying to keep warm from the exterior temperature, it's really easy to overheat in a situation. You're layered up and you overheat. And there's a lot of people that actually up north, when they're shoveling snow, have, had some issues. So be careful when you start getting out there. But at the same time, don't hesitate to do it, because that's what's going to keep you healthy.
Yeah. And Rollie, one of the last things is the issue of keeping your inflammation down in general.
Oh, that's
we talked about the response, the immune response. That's fine, but in general, if people have high inflammation, they're at more risk for being sick.
Yep.
Right. Especially if you end up with an infection in your lungs. If your inflammation is high, you're at risk of getting pneumonia or even sepsis. So you want to make sure in general you have low inflammation by using antioxidants to reduce your inflammation from the norm, which most people on the scale using CRP are about a 3. You want to try to get yours below 0.5. All right. Now, below 0.5, you have very low inflammation. And if you do get sick, you won't be at as much risk for an inflammatory complication from the flu. Right? So we do that with compounds that we know reduce inflammation: superoxide dismutase, trimethylglycine, glutathione, the ACE vitamins, A, C, and E, minerals like zinc, selenium, magnesium. These are all things that reduce your inflammation, and we know from our own experience that of our many thousands of customers that have sent us their blood work and talked to us, their inflammation tends to come down by about a factor of 10. So people that use the Boomer products have inflammation 10 times lower than people who don't. Right? So this is a very good strategy. The good news about it is the same products that reduce your inflammation also help you to stay healthy by constantly rebuilding your body.
Correct.
So if you're being run down and broken down by poor sleep, by the flu, by smoking cigarettes, drinking too much alcohol, not exercising, you have to be able to rebuild yourself. And the way people rebuild themselves is with amino acids and metabolic enzymes and certain minerals and vitamins that activate many metabolic pathways. And we have all of those in the same products that reduce your inflammation. All the compounds for rebuilding yourself are there as well.
Right. I mean, the tools are there, right? You just got to go do it.
Yep.
But that's one of the things about the flu and disease in general. Like we were saying, it affects everybody differently. So do supplements as well. Everybody reacts differently to things. And one of the best things is when you get something that works, don't forget it. Stick with it, right? Yeah. That's one of the things. That's the key. Do them every day. If you don't take supplements every day, they don't work.
Absolutely. Rollie, well, thanks very much for being here with me today. This was, just the beginning information, but actionable things that you can use to stay healthy during the wintertime. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening to Live Forever Young Radio, and we'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Check us out at liveforeveryoungradio.com.